Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and this jacket has definitely seen better days, but it's going to be perfect for a Christmas stocking. This old flannel quilted jacket has definitely seen better days, so I'm going to cut it up for a Christmas stocking. First thing we need to do is, well, make sure it's clean and give it a bit of a press because it's going to be easier to work with if it's been pressed. I even put a little starch on it just to make it easier to sew. Now, some of the quilted jackets are only quilted on the back fabric, not on the front fabric, so it's actually in two separate pieces. If that's the case, you will need to quilt the layers together. And I followed the quilting lines and have quilted the front of the jacket. It's easier to do it now before you take it apart because the pieces are going to stay together. This jacket has a front pocket that I'm hoping to be able to use some of, so I didn't quilt the pocket area. Now I'm going to cut the jacket apart, and I'm going to cut it at the side seam. And because I already quilted the front, I'm able to cut it apart on the front side. It will hold the layers together for me. The next thing I'm going to do is cut out the arm and do that to both sides. And before you quilt the back, let's decide how the stocking is going to fit on the front of the jacket. Do up all of the buttons if you still have them all on. If not, don't worry about it. Top stitch down the front of the placket where both of the buttons are. There's usually 2 lines of stitching, and just follow that line of stitching to stitch this together. The next thing we need to do is secure the fabric around the collar. We're going to use this collar for the top. So take about 1/2 inch and stitch all the way around the collar. Once you've stitched around the collar, we can decide where the stocking pattern is going to go. But we need the measurement of this collar. Now I have a stocking pattern that I'll put in the description for you, but you can use any stocking pattern at all. I need the size up at the top to be the size of the collar. And a really easy way to get that measurement is just pull it and put it on the top of your pattern. Then take a pen and mark where that edge goes. So the collar's folded in half, and that is the measurement. And that measurement is going to be where your seam allowance needs to be stitched. So you are going to stitch right on that line. So you might need to change the shape of the stocking a little bit. You might need to make it a little bit bigger if you don't have enough for a seam allowance, or just take it and taper it down. And that's going to give me the right size. And because the front has already been quilted, you'll be able to cut out that stocking. And this is how my stocking front is going to look. I have the buttons and I have a pocket. Now I need to quilt the back of the jacket. So if you cut the front in one direction, you need to cut it in the other because you need to have right sides out. And if you're really not sure, what you need to do is have the wrong sides together, or you can match it with the right sides together to determine the positioning of the stocking. And I'm going to do it onto the back. So I'm going to mark the area that needs to be quilted because you don't need to quilt the entire back unless you want to. Now that I have it marked, I can quilt that area. Again, just follow the quilting that's on the back of the shirt, and it's already been held together because you've not cut the seams apart. So the front and the back have been cut out. Now we need to cut out one more thing, and that's the collar. And cut out that collar along that line that you stitched. So the stitching is going to stay onto the collar. You're cutting on the other side of the stitching. That stitching is going to hold the back to the front. The stocking's going to need a lining, so you're going to need to cut out 2 pieces of cotton for the lining. Front and back for the jacket, front and back for a lining, and the collar. The first thing we're going to do is sew the collar onto the top. So you need to sew the top portion just a couple of inches. It's easier if you do not do the whole stocking to start with. So just the top has been sewn together. So turn the stocking so it's right side up, and turn the collar so it's wrong side. And you're going to be able to put the 2 together. So you have right side of the collar and the right side of the stocking. And match up the buttons to where the buttonholes are supposed to go. And when it's all pinned together, you're going to take a piece of ribbon and fold it in half and slip it between the 2 layers. You'll be able to pin the collar on all the way around. And now following the edge of the collar, and you might want to use a zipper foot. you can stitch right along that edge, stitching the 2 layers together. And if you find your buttons are in your way, take the buttons off and sew them back on after. And when you're finished sewing it, this is the time to check and make sure it's on right. Turn the stocking back on itself and finish stitching. And with the 2 lining pieces, you need to put the right sides together, and you're going to stitch all the way around, but you're going to leave an opening on one side. So you'll stitch a little bit on the top, leave an opening, and then finish stitching it. The stocking outside has been done, the lining has been done. Turn the lining so it is right side. Then you can take the lining and put it right inside of the main body. You have the right side of the lining and the right side of the stocking matching. Match up the side seams and match up the edges. And once they're pinned together, you're going to be able to follow the stitching line that you did that put the collar on. And stitch it down. And when the top's been stitched down, you will be able to pull the lining out. So you should have wrong sides and wrong sides. Now you need to turn this right side. Put your hand in and pull the stocking right through that hole. And when the stocking's been pulled out, you'll be able to stitch this closed, and I would just stitch it on the machine. So you have your tag out, and you have both of the sides are right side. And when that back stitch has been done, you're able to push that lining into the inside of the bag. Fix the collar, give it a press, you're done. Well, there's not much left of that jacket, but we did get a nice big stocking and a little one to match. So we now have a father and a son matching stockings. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.